realized, oh, and not too long after that, Will, not too long after this, true story, we have a famous technology analyst here in the States named Rob Enderle. And Rob Enderle wrote a blog post, and he said that if Steve Jobs ever writes a book, a biography, he really should look at the presentation secrets of Steve Jobs. And he meant it seriously. You know, he said,
Yes.
because it teaches you something. It's not just about a life story, but it teaches you something.
Yes.
And so I thought there was a real need out there. People were looking at this great iconic leader wondering, how does he do it? So I think I have discovered the 7 principles, not because of me, not because I have any special insight, but because I'm a journalist. So I interviewed employees, former employees, Apple analysts, people who have covered Steve Jobs since the 1980s, the people who know him best.
Yes.
And then I filtered it down, saw the structure, and developed the 7 principles.
I see. Okay. Well, no, that's very interesting because that's quite different from the typical biographer's approach, which might be also interesting from another perspective, but it doesn't. You have to do the work to sort through and draw the lessons. And a lot of readers don't want to work that hard. They're too busy.
Well, Will, I remember I'm a journalist, and one of my biggest frustrations with a lot of people who I interviewed, especially when I was on television, a lot of the business people who I interviewed, it was very hard for me to understand how what they were doing applied to my life. Their companies, their products. Teach me something.
Yes.
Educate me. Teach me something new. Which is kind of the cool thing about the Apple stores. I've got a whole chapter in this new book about the Apple stores because they go beyond just selling products, but they educate you. So I was trying to apply the same philosophy to a book.
Well, you know, it's also a matter not just of the of what you learn and the user experience, but I think in many respects what we're really looking for is seeing our own story. We're looking at somebody else to look in the mirror and see how it applies to us. So the fact that Apple has been so successful and that innovation has become sort of the rule of the day. You know, every time you come in, I mean, I feel sorry for the people who buy a product the day before the new one comes out, but they're still not doing badly compared to what, you know, even a few months before. But it's really our own story, isn't it, that we're looking for hints.
And what can we learn from that? It's so easy to say Steve Jobs is the greatest innovator of our time.
But because that's him, and that's not me. You're right.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean, and how does he do it, and how can I just apply some of the magic to my life?
Yeah. Well, so, now, Carmine, if I could get the iPad Creators Club, iPadCreatorsClub.com, which we are launching actually tomorrow night at the flagship store in Ginza. So I really appreciate your helping us out in a timely manner. But my concept for this is, in Paris there's an historical cafe called Les Deux Magots. And this was the place where Picasso gathered, where Hemingway and Jean-Paul Sartre and Oscar Wilde would gather and share conversations and coffee with other great minds. And it's quite a famous historical cafe. And so my thought is, why not use the iPad as the platform? So the iPad is sort of our cafe in a sense, although at the same time we want to meet in real cafes. So we've actually lined up a number of quite elegant spaces in Tokyo, some beautiful places, and including some restaurants and some spaces that would be very compatible with the whole Apple spirit, where we will hold our meetings. And I'm hoping that we will gather people who have the same spirit of wanting to share ideas. And instead of the Moleskine, the little notebook with the band around it that was famous for that time, the Hemingway and others used, we will have the iPad. Yeah.
You know, one of the neat things about what you just said, there is a chapter in my book called Kickstart Your Brain. And it's based on the fact that Steve Jobs is so creative because even when he was young, he thought a broad set of human experiences expands your own knowledge and expands your own experience level. Yes. So instead of, he likes to adapt ideas from different fields. That's the secret of his creativity. And it's actually a fundamental principle of creativity that a lot of psychologists use as well. The most creative people, they said, are ones who associate ideas from different fields. Isn't that what Steve Jobs has been doing his whole life?
Yes.
But Will, what you just did in creating this iPad club is the same thing. You've made an association from something that's completely outside of the technology field.
Right.
In other words, the same principles that Steve Jobs applies to creating world-class products is the same principle that all of us can use to be more creative. That's why I'm so fascinated by your idea for creating this club.
Well, and our second meeting, which we've already scheduled, will actually be hosted in a very it's calligraphy for interior design, brush calligraphy, not pen calligraphy. And so there's a connection there with Steve Jobs' experience at Reed College.
You remember that wonderful story?
Oh, absolutely. I may remember it because of Reed College. It's not a family connection, but that's my name. But also because I do calligraphy myself. I mean, I'm a brush calligrapher, and so we are actually going to use this. It's kind of retracing the steps, but doing it with a totally different mix in a different country and a different language, and with vastly different technology than Steve had available at the time when he was in college.
That's
and
amazing.
I am just so excited. I mean, in fact, I suspect that the iPad can actually, what can I say, catalyze your ability to present and innovate like Steve Jobs. Now, I think that's a bold statement, but what is your thought on that?
Without question. Without question. Even in the publishing world, Will, there's something very interesting that those of you in your user group might already know. But even in the publishing world, which is a very staid kind of traditional world, slow to change, slow to innovate, they're coming out with what are called enhanced ebooks. Some people call it a book, but here in the States, they're starting to use the term enhanced ebooks.
With video or audio?
Video and audio. There are under 200 books. There's only about 180 books available on Kindle that are these enhanced ebooks, audio, video. Mine will be the presentation secrets and the innovation secrets are going to be coming out any week now. And as soon as I find out, I'll let you know.
Let us know on Kindle.
On Kindle for the iPad.
And will they also be enhanced in terms of links and so forth?
Yes, that's the whole point. The ebook is already available, but now we're going to launch enhanced ebook.
Next level, excellent.
So for the first time in a type of book like this, you're going to be able to read the text and see the author, me, talking to you in little video clips throughout the text, and not just reading the chapters. I'm going to say things like, you know, this was one of my favorite chapters to write. When I was writing this chapter, these are some great ideas that came to mind. Here, let me show you some photographs or some
behind the scenes look.
Well, we could not have done that before the iPad came around. So, 1 year in 2009, when the presentation book came out in English, we really didn't have that technology available. Then in 2010, by the end of 2010, we're producing an entire new category of book.
Wow.
Carmine, that has the potential of revolutionizing the industry.
We now have a textbook for our club. I mean, I was going to obviously recommend your books anyway, but how cool is that to be able to actually read and share pieces of it on the iPad?
It'll be a lot of fun. As soon as they're out, it's literally any day or any week now.